Wednesday afternoon, just about 1:10, thereabouts. And I'm just navigating off of a couple websites I've been visiting. I have my slowly doing some classwork, not as imperative um, as the stuff that I was doing before, getting the 200-hour yoga certification under my belt. This is really the last step of a decades long process, sort of piecing together um, my own yoga plan, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to offer other people. Last on the list was the 200-hour certification because honestly, and surprising to some, as I'm very physically orientated, obviously, title, channel's name being just Yogi doing burpees. Um, and that's the basis, was the basis for the having a channel in the first place. Although I originally started my channel, two things. I started it years ago in order to, decades ago actually, in order to read some of my poetry. Didn't pan out. Um, did not enjoy reading, although I'm giving it another try. And I'm actually enjoying that quite a bit. In some ways, in doing it live, in some ways more than these live sessions, because um, here nothing's planned. I just I talk until like I'm finished talking or it gets close to 2 o'clock, and then I call it a day. Um, but with the evening session, I'm coming there with something that I know I'm going to read. I'm going to share it with my friends, whoever pops in. So that takes a little pressure off of having to think of something to say. To be honest, I seldom ever try to think of something to say. Um, I either talk, things either come, or they don't. Either way is fine. I don't mind here sitting in silence, not saying anything. But if anyone tunes in, I'm sure that's going to be extremely boring to have me staring blankly at the camera and you guys staring blankly back at me. At least for my benefit, I don't see anyone, but you guys, you're stuck staring at this. Um, and then I sort of reactivated my account, my channel, for my meditation training class several years ago, meditation teaching training class, where I had to offer videos of me teaching to my instructors so that it was shared without being made public. And then with the encouragement of some friends in the burpee community, they said, hey, share a workout or two. Little did they know, uh, 800 days later of daily doing burpees, that what they would be encouraging, they might have thought twice about it. Um, However, since that, the channel has expanded and grown. Um, I'm doing these live talks that mainly talk about yoga, meditation. So to circle back, um, the whole reason why I waited with the 200-hour yoga certification is because in wanting to present yoga, I wanted to do it through my own lens, my own perception, which meant that I wanted what I considered to be the original intent of yoga. I didn't want to teach calisthenics. I didn't want to teach exercise. I didn't want to teach how to stretch. Um, in other words, the asanas, of which I practice daily and have for since I was a kid, really, um, that's become the focus of yoga in the Western view. Even in India at one time, uh, probably in the last 40 or 50 years, um, yoga sort of took on that tint of the Western ideals of it being purely the physical aspect, the asanas. Our friend Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is here saying, Grand day and blessings, Eric. How are you? I'm doing pretty well. Um, sort of talking about the last thing I did in my teaching certification processes was the 200-hour yoga teacher certification, because the end result of yoga, of the yogic path, is samadhi, which is worked through all the other limbs, but it is actualized, it's realized through the path of sense withdrawal, one point of concentration, absorption, meditation, and then you reach samadhi, which is that bliss consciousness. It's when everything else drops away. In meditation, you reach that witness consciousness where you are the witness to everything that surfaces through the awareness of which you are. You're the witness to your thoughts, you're the witness to your body, you're the witness to the asanas that you practice. In samadhi, even the witness falls away, and there is simply this. There is simply beingness. There is simply life, and we're direct participants within it. But when you say, I'd like to present yoga, people think that you're going to show up in your workout gear, your yoga gear, and you're going to demonstrate a headstand, you're going to demonstrate the lotus position, you're going to do yoga poses, which is just a very, very small aspect of the yogic path. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which are considered the Bible, the holy text of yoga itself, in 195 sutras, I believe yoga, the asanas themselves, are mentioned 3 times, maybe 2 times, no more than 3 times. And how they're mentioned is for sitting in meditation, to find that posture of meditation, lotus posture, half lotus, or the easy posture, or the auspicious pose. 4 seating yogic postures, maybe the diamond posture, which is when you're on your knees, and to make yourself at ease, stable, and comfortable, which is also the thinking that you should have in every asana that you do. It's not about how long you can hold a posture. It's not about how deep you can go. It's not about how difficult the posture is. It is about, let's Google it up. It is about finding steadiness and ease within the posture itself. I believe it's Yoga Sutra, chapter 4. Let's see if I can find it. 246. So I've written about this quite a bit in my blog. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, chapter 2, verse 46, says that the posture of yoga meditation should be steady, stable, and comfortable. Now, we can take that as like any type of yoga. We could say the asanas, it's all part of life. Everything's a yoga pose. Everything is an asana. From me sitting here, to if I go running, if I do a burpee, to my emotional response to anything in life, it is all some type of stance, some type of posture. And if I can find myself steady, stable, and comfortable within each of those postures, whatever life throws at me, then I have actualized yoga in and of itself. Destiny says, so you're a certified yoga teacher instructor. Are you teaching classes in yoga? No, because I have this discussion with Mocha quite a bit. I do not want to teach people how to exercise. I don't want to teach people how to do yoga postures. I want to teaching might be the wrong word. I want to do what I'm doing right here. I'm presenting yoga, but the true path of yoga, the 8 branches of Ashtanga yoga, of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, um, that if I sit in a room, if I go to a studio or I go to someone's house and they go to mine, if I teach online, and several of my burpee friends have said that they would actually watch if I did a that type of yoga class. But that's such a small part of yoga, um, that I don't. It seems that if I focus on that, I'm just teaching people how to stretch. Um, Yoga is more the path of meditation. It's more the path of ethical concerns. It's more the path of breath work. It's more the path of withdrawal of the senses than it is simply asanas. As I said, in the what's considered the holy grail of yogic texts, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the poses, the postures are only mentioned 2 or 3 times out of 195 verses, which shows you how low they place on the level of importance. Not that they're not important, they are. And again, I practice the asanas every day, sometimes 3 times a day, and I have for since I was a kid. Um, our friend Smitty popped in, quick pop in for support, liked and shared. One love, have a great day. You too, Smitty. I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming in as well. Um, so I'd much rather come here and talk about um, the foundation of yoga, ahimsa, non-harming, non-stealing, non-hoarding, uh, the niyamas, which are the personal observances. I'd much rather teach someone how to breathe, to do pranayama, to develop their connection to that subtle body that we have. I'd much rather um, teach or talk about yoga nidra, which is pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. Um, and I'd much rather talk about meditation. Um, but most people really want the poses and the postures, which again are important, but you only need a few, honestly. And I don't think everyone needs to spend an hour doing yoga. It's a really good workout for some, but yoga itself is not supposed to be about working out. It's as we talk about often, Destiny. It's about your lifestyle, but more than that, it's about the it's about your essence. It's about your soul. It's about your spirit. Yoga itself meaning union, yoke. That's where we get the keyword yoke. Um, and it is the realization of the unification of body, mind, and soul. So to concentrate that deeply on um, just the physical sort of almost perverts the whole ideal of yoga itself. So my goal, my specific goal in having a channel, because I'm not the most, I don't consider myself a great teacher of anything. I'm not the most knowledgeable person on yoga, but I am a certified pranayama breathwork coach. I am a certified meditation teacher. Um, that I want to be the pointer. I want to point people in the right direction, and they can proceed from there. Destiny says, yoga seems to be the foundation that extends to other paths in expressing your gifts. You have so many gifts to share with the world. Thank you, Destiny. I appreciate you saying so. Um, well, I've explored Buddhism quite a bit. I've explored Taoism quite a bit, um, and other schools of psychology, trying to find what works for me. For a long time, um, my path was largely in concern with how do I reduce my own suffering. Um, Having gone through some stuff, gone through some issues, a lifetime of low key depression that's always been present, um, having battled addiction, having drank myself out of jobs and relationships, putting other people in harm. I was just looking for some peace. But as you dive into yoga, um, deeper and deeper, what you find is you, by being of service to other people, you find peace for yourself. That was important. Um, Destiny says, Eric, have you explored Christianity too? I went to a Catholic school all through my formative years, from second grade through my first year in high school. It didn't stick. I appreciate it. Um, my mom considered herself a Christian. My father, as a science teacher, didn't really concern himself with religion one way or the other, but he was supportive for whatever anyone else believed. His family, his mother was a Methodist, his father's family were Quakers, but my grandfather left the Quaker church. He was a little too wild in his ways to fit in with the Quakers. I love the Quaker thought. I love the Quaker philosophy, their commitment to peace and non harming, that they work as activists for their belief. They don't just retreat from the world, they stay active in it. Martin Luther King was educated through the Quaker Church, and that was a big thing that stuck with him. Gandhi was a big admirer of the Quaker religion. I love um, I love the Catholic Mass, especially in Latin. I love the Christian mystics. They've shaped a big part of my own personal philosophy, and I quote them pretty often. Um, I love the teachings of Jesus. I love Sermon of the Mount. Um, but it seems to me Christianity is much like yoga. When you say yoga, people assume you're talking about stretching. When you say Christianity, it seems so often now people think that you are talking evangelical, or you're talking the big money making churches and ministers, that it's gotten so far away from the key concepts of Sermon of the Mount. Who practices what Jesus said in Sermon of the Mount? Certainly no one that I see um, in the media talking about religion. Um, the ones who are most vocal about it. And to me, that's a shame. And what did Jesus say about practicing in silence? We'll look it up. Always appreciate having my Google machine here. Um, and as mentioned, I think it was yesterday, I absolutely love the Psalms and uh, the book of Genesis. I love the cosmology um, of Genesis. I remember reading before that if every part of the scriptures was lost and only one thing survived, if only Sermon of the Mount, the Beatitudes, survived, that alone would be enough. If it was wiped away from memory, every word in the New Testament except for the Sermon of the Mount That alone would be enough to have a complete religion of its own. And I honestly believe that. The words themselves um, are their guide, how to live your life. And to me, they're so similar to the yamas and the niyamas of yoga, which are the personal um, restraints and ethics observances that we practice. Hey, Mocha is here saying hi. Mocha, how are you? I hope you're feeling better. We're talking some Jesus. um, and we're talking Sermon on the Mount. It just seems to me what a different place. Let's start with the country, what a different place our country would be. And then we'll go with um, what a different place the world could be if people practice the essence of their religion instead of the poor translation of their religion offered by those who, to be charitable, are misunderstanding the teachings of Jesus, the teaching of the Quran, the teaching of any of the holy texts. Um, Mercy says, so not the Jesus I know who served with me then? Nope, not him. Never met him. Um, all we have are poor translations of the original teachings of Jesus. Um, again, sort of propagated by people who, to be charitable, misunderstood, or are purposely seeking power, prestige, position, um, prosperity, sticking with the P's. Um, and for some reason, the vast majority of people are listening to them when they could go directly to the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes themselves, or they could do what Jesus did, go off into the desert and commune with God themselves, sit beneath a tree like Buddha and wait for insights to hit them. They could meditate, they could listen to their heart, they could serve other people. They could be what Jesus was, a karma yogi, um, someone who gives himself to the selfless service of others. Um, who did Jesus preach to? He didn't go to whatever was the highest media point of his time and address the highest among. He didn't go there to address the rich people, those in positions of power. Jesus was in the trenches, day and night, happily so. These were his people. Um, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So begins the Beatitudes. And yet, who do we worship? Rich people. They're the ones with the power, and they're the ones we look up to. Not the ones, of course, not the people here listening to me. We're a little bit smarter than that. Destiny says, I don't do religion either. I just explore all the different religions to get some understanding and knowledge. That's the key difference, Destiny. You are your pure love and spirit. You don't need um, a religion. You are religion. You are um, exactly what you need to be. And you are karma yogi as well. You're um, offering selfless service. You're offering your joy and your love and your wisdom and insights to all who come freely. There's really no need for you to be an organized religion because, again, um, you're offering pure spirit to everyone. Let's see. Destiny says, hello, Mocha McCarty. Happy Wednesday and blessings to you. And Mocha says it's a fascinating topic, religion. It is. It's so interesting how it every religion starts from, again, what I was saying in the trenches. Starts with helping people, serving people, laying yourself down low so that others can rise. Um, and then it's perverted. It becomes something other. And yet, you can always turn back to the book itself. You can always, Jesus gave explicit instructions. The kingdom of heaven is within. And he told you where to look. He also said, hey, you guys can do all the things that I do if you believe, if you try. And somehow the entire ability to perform miracles became not something that the average everyday person can do, but something only the higher ups can do. And somehow our worship turned into worshiping those who are telling us what to do instead of admiring a man who showed us what to do. Mocha says, taken and perverted by those with money and power, or taken and perverted by those who want money and power and don't have it yet, but they know the way to get there. They know the way to get there is to manipulate people through their faith. And people, for whatever reason, are so willing to give their power away. Which I've never understood. Now, some people might say, so it goes in yoga and Buddhism, that you give your power towards a guru. And in some cases they're right, but the guru practice in and of itself is you are giving the power of the ego to a guru so that you can be realized in spirit. You're subduing the ego so the spirit rises. And then through that path of surrender, you claim your true power. But again, like everywhere else, yoga, sometimes we know better than any other religion, it gets perverted. There are, well-documented cases of guru through the ages who have manipulated their followers, all the way from Patanjali's time, I'm sure, to modern time. I think maybe I was just talking about my love of Genesis because of the cosmology that is presented, creation of the universe. I just love cosmology in every single instance, from the creation of the world offered through the viewpoint of Navajos and the Iroquois, to the Taoist creation stories, Buddhist creation stories, yogic creation stories. And they're all so similar in a way, and yet vastly different as well. Let's see. Destiny says, research has shown that Hindi is the first religion to exist. Sort of, probably the first organized. But I'd say religion itself being a form of organized shamanism, that each tribe had their shaman and they turned to him for the spiritual wisdom. And yet the role of a shaman is also to help each person understand their own relationship to nature. Every bit of my nature writing that I do, I try to do from a shamanic presentation of this is what nature is speaking to me, which lets me off the hook when I get my facts wrong. Milka says cults are a great example as well. Those with no power, finding those who are afraid to think for themselves, and through pure charisma, pull the weak ones in. Uh, and weak doesn't mean stupid. No, that's true. I have a couple friends who were in cults. I have a friend who was with Osho for a long time. Big regret, and he's extremely anything. If he reads anything that I write, if it at all sort of alludes in that direction, he's very quick to call me out. Um, I think my all-time favorite um, is St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians. Um, I've mentioned that before. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we'll read a little bit. One of which strive eagerly for the greatest spiritual gifts. If I speak in human and angelic tongues, but do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clashing cymbal. If I give away everything I own, and if I hand over my body over so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. And then the ending is the best part. Love is patient, love is kind. It is not jealous, it is not pompous. It is not inflated. It is not rude. It does not seek its own interest. It is not quick-tempered. It does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believeth all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Absolutely beautiful. And yet, how many can point to Christians practicing love? Prominent Christians practicing love. Because I do believe there's, again, people in the trenches who do. But at the same time, um, a lot of Christians truly believe that their role is to convert other people to Christianity, which is ridiculous on every level. People should be drawn towards, you can offer it to people, you can show people, that's even the better way. Show people through your service, through your love, through your acts, and people will be drawn to that practice, and they'll say, I want what they have. Years and years and years ago, the Maharishi Mahesh was on Larry King talking about meditation. This was probably in the 80s. And um, he was smiling and he was laughing. Even when callers would come in and ridicule him, Larry King would make comments. And he was just unswayed. And Larry King peered really closely, looked him in the eye, and said, it's so silent in there. Is there anyone in there? And the Maharishi said, not the one that you would imagine. Something along those lines. And I remember thinking, I want what he has. I want that peace. I want to be unswayed by the stuff of life. And of course, decades and decades and decades of practice, I'm still swayed by the stuff of life. But I've gained a measure of peace in comparison to where I was. As I mentioned before, my life, purposely so, was not one of peace because it was one of distraction. I distracted myself by recreational drugs. I distracted myself by drinking. I distracted myself by pursuing things that we won't touch upon right now. But it certainly wasn't a path to peace, although it might have been because it led me here. Wayne Leckerman, who is a teacher of non-duality, who was his guru was Ramesh Baksa, who was a translator for the great Nisargadatta Maharishi. So that's a pretty distinguished lineage. Um, when he was a drug abuser, alcoholic, uh, happily so, no intention of quitting. He uh, he had like $1,000 a day cocaine habit, um, and he would drink just quarts of liquor every day, um, and a large part his life was pretty much of a mess, but he enjoyed that mess. And one day, drinking and drinking and drinking, partying and partying and partying, he found that he could no longer get drunk. He kept drinking, he kept doing drugs, and yet he was stubbornly sober, and it was driving him crazy. He couldn't figure it out, and he didn't give up. He kept trying. Eventually, he realized that this is it. For whatever reason, he's probably done drinking, regrettably. And he figured, well, if that's the case, I may as well use up all my drugs and drink all my liquor, which he did until he fell asleep and he woke up and he was sober and he had no more drugs left. And he went down to a bookstore and he bought, I believe it was the Tao Te Ching, um, maybe a book by uh, Thich Nhat Hanh, I forget what else. And he started on a spiritual quest until he saw the person who was to become his guru giving a talk. And he went, and this is the guy, he was some type of big trader, a lot of money, a very big, very powerful person. Um, the last thing you would think he would ever do was surrender to a guru, which he did. And he had an awakening, and he felt guilty about it. And he turned to his guru and said, I don't deserve this. I haven't practiced for decades. I hardly ever meditate. I don't do yoga. I don't have a sadhana being your daily spiritual practice. And um, Ramesh turned to him and said, your drinking was your sadhana. It's your drinking that led you here. Your drinking was your practice until you no longer needed it and you surrendered. And the end result of every spiritual practice is one of surrender. That's when you realize. And that's what you realize where true power is. True power isn't in acquiring. It isn't an achievement. It's not in accomplishments. It's not in being able to tell other people what to do or even influence other people. True power is our ability to surrender and surrender and surrender. No matter what life throws at us, we surrender. The willow tree, we bend, we weave, we curve. We are not stoic in the way of traditional thinking, that we are like water, as Bruce Lee quoting the Tao. Water will eventually carve the greatest of canyons within the earth, a steady drip. It doesn't have to be a river. It doesn't have to be a stream. It doesn't have to be a creek. And I know Mocha's saying, how come he didn't say crick? It only takes a drop, repeatedly, a drop, a drop, a drop. And we get there. And the great realization is, through that surrender, we've always been there. We've always been in that position of power. We can surrender any time, at any moment, through any circumstance. While life is here, greetings, beautiful people. Hey, thanks for showing up. I'm actually going to get ready to call it a day on this one. We'll be back later this evening, a little after 5, and do some reading from the blog. I haven't picked out what I'm going to read yet. I wrote about bluebirds today, so maybe I'll read that one. Amazing. A couple amazing things about bluebirds. They were absent from this area for quite a long time. I walked for years and years without seeing one. And Mocha can attest to that, walking with me. We hardly would ever see bluebirds. And now, this year, for whatever reason, we see them pretty often. Remarkable comeback, and I'm happy about that. Um, and I'm also sort of surprised that I haven't written about bluebirds before, their absence or their return. But I rectified that this morning. And again, I should mention, if there's any topic that you want me to read about, I'll check through 20 plus years of writing and happily find if I have written about it, and I'll read it. Be it nature or yoga or meditation or breath work or any of the multiple things that we talk about, from even new age stuff, or I did not mean Blue Jays. Let's see. Mocha says, as long as no one starts talking about music, that is. Well, as long as people are respectful in their musical opinions. Well, not even musical opinions, artist opinions. Destiny says, thanks, Eric and Mocha McCarty, for the great discussion and time together. Blessings and love to you both. Thank you, Destiny. I appreciate that. So, yeah, shamanism, New Age stuff, Ho'oponopono, which is the Hawaiian form of shamanic practice for forgiving yourself, forgiving others. It's a great little practice, actually. So, again, probably 25 years worth of blog stuff that I'm digging through, and I'm always happy to attempt to do a reading. My reading is sort of shaky at times, but I do my best. Some days better than others. So just leave a comment. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to discuss later, and we'll be back. Thanks, Destiny, and thank you, Mocha, and thank you, Watts Life. I appreciate you all being here, and I'll see you all later. Take care.